Welcome to another edition of Take 5. We are in John chapter 5, verse 37. And the Father who sent me has himself borne witness about me. His voice you have never heard, his form you have never seen. And you do not have his word abiding in you, for you do not believe the one whom he has sent. You search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life. And it is they that bear witness about me, yet you refuse to come to me that you may have life. I do not receive glory from people, but I know that you do not have the love of God within you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, you will receive him. How can you believe when you receive glory from one another, and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? Do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, on whom you have set your hope. For if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? Interesting, he's talking to Jews who were under the old covenant, who had a lot of respect for Moses, so they claimed, and yet they wouldn't accept Moses' testimony about Jesus. They wouldn't accept the laws that Moses taught. So Jesus says, look, Moses is going to accuse you. Alright, so Jesus is really laying into these guys. But for our purposes, let's focus on a couple of verses here. Verse 44, how can you believe when you receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? Alright? Who would you rather receive glory from? These guys like to receive glory from each other. They cared what the people thought. They cared what each other thought. Their cronies, their peers. They didn't care what God thought. How about you? Do you care more about what your peers think? Other people in your circle? Other people who are in the same social echelon as you? Do you care what your friends think? Do you care what your family thinks? Do you want to be popular? Or do you care what God thinks? And you can't have it both. Jesus said, woe to you when all men speak well of you. So if everybody likes you, like your name is Raymond, okay, then you must not be seeking the glory that comes from God. Because if you're seeking the glory that comes from God, you're following this word. You're listening to him. And if you're following his word, you're living in the light, which means people in darkness are not going to like you. So I would encourage you, don't be like these guys. These guys wouldn't listen to God. They wouldn't listen to Jesus because they'd rather listen to each other. It talks about, I believe it's in 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy, how people in the last days will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. That's what these guys would do. All right, this honestly is what a lot of churches nowadays do too. They teach messages that people want to hear, and they would rather get the praise and the praise and the approval of their congregation rather than from God. So let it not be so in your case or mine. Let us look for the glory that comes from God. And I'll be honest, I struggle with this sometimes too, because I like to be patted on the back and noticed. But you know what? The only one we need to be concerned with whether we get patted on the back and noticed from is God. And most of the time, he doesn't make it a big deal. You just got to trust by faith that he sees what you're doing and he's going to reward it. All right. That's it for chapter 5. Come back tomorrow. Tremendous miracle. If I do one tomorrow, but hopefully I will. Jesus feeding 5,000 people. One of the greatest miracles he ever did. We'll look at it tomorrow on the next edition of Take 5.